Practical Anarchy, Guide to Self-Determination. And almost a bit sad this, but this is the last instalment in the book. It's the summary and conclusions, chapter 11, and it'll be quite a long one, this, because it was two each. There's lots of sections, but none of them would make a whole one, so I've just put them all together, so we'll just have quite a long one. First of all, I thought I'd read you one of the funniest quotes I've ever heard, which was from Mark Slay's book. Aubergines were altogether a middle-of-the-road kind of vegetable. They were the Chris Rea of the allotment, the Ford Sierra of the fridge, the golden retriever of the grocery world. The texture of a lazily prepared, badly cooked, unloved aubergine admittedly bore a passing resemblance to an orthopaedic mattress, but Solemnum Melongena nonetheless deserved its place in my kitchen pantheon. Fried to a fragile crisp or soaked into submission in an igneous ratatouille, the aubergine was fully capable of holding its own against its more glamorous brethren. Well done, Mark. Brilliant bit of writing. Absolutely fuck all to do with anarchy, but who cares? Right. Okay, the conclusion. So, looking back, pulling the threads together. We've travelled a long way. This book has been a journey across the tangled web of human societies, a tour through the myths we have inherited and the chains we continue to carry. We started with the foundations, the problems with the state in Chapter 4, the problem with money and capitalism in Chapter 5, the problem with religion in Chapter 6, and the trap of party politics in Chapter 7. We then moved beyond critique, exploring visions of life without those chains in Chapters 8 through 10. What emerges is not utopia sketched in clouds, nor a rigid blueprint to be imposed from above. Rather, it is a pattern, a set of principles, a way of living and organising that continually resurfaces whenever people refuse to be ruled. Anarchism is less about a single model and more about recognising the seed beneath the snow. The practices of cooperation, mutual aid and shared responsibility that already exist, often quietly, in the cracks in capitalism. Looking back, it's clear that the central myths of the modern world, that we need states to keep order, that we need money to keep trade moving, that we need religion to give us morality, that we need political parties to represent us, have been dismantled piece by piece. Chapter 4 showed how states emerged through violence and continue to rule through coercion, division and surveillance. Chapter 5 revealed that money is less a neutral tool and more a weapon of control, enforcing wage slavery and fueling endless crises. Chapter 6 traced how religions have sanctified hierarchy, justified war and stifled freedom, even while some strands offered glimpses of compassion and liberation. Chapter 7 stripped bare the illusion of choice in party politics, two wings of the same bird, flapping in circles, while the system marches on. But critique is not enough. We have to ask what comes next. Chapters 8, 9 and 10 sketched visions of life beyond these chains, resource-based societies, everyday anarchism, mutual aid, federation, commons, cultural renewal and systematic roadmaps for transition. Now in this concluding chapter we need to step back and ask, what does it all add up to? What are the lessons, the hopes, the obstacles still in our way? And perhaps, most importantly, what can we do, here, now, with the lives we actually live? The core themes: freedom, cooperation and responsibility. If one thread runs through this whole book, it is the insistence that freedom is not chaos, but responsibility. Freedom does not mean the absence of relationships. It means the presence of relationships based on choice rather than coercion. From Kropotkin's principle of mutual aid to Colin Ward's seed beneath the snow, the anarchist tradition has always emphasised that human beings thrive not in isolation, but in cooperation. Another theme is that hierarchy, whether in the form of states, bosses, priests or party leaders, always justifies itself by fear. Without us, they say, we would collapse into order. Without us, your neighbours would steal from you, your community would starve and chaos would reign. It's worth pointing out that despite state hierarchy in most countries, millions of people live in poverty, in danger, in fear, in hunger, so these arguments simply do not hold. Yet, as we've seen countless case studies, from disaster solidarity to squats, co-ops, Zapatistas, Rojava, transition towns, mutual aid networks, the opposite is true. When authority collapses or withdraws, ordinary people step up, organise and care for one another. The third theme is that every system of domination works not only through force, but through imagination. The state maintains armies and prisons, but it also shapes our sense of what is possible. Money fills our wallets, but also colonises our minds. We start to believe that nothing can happen without it. Religion may preach compassion, but often it imposes guilt and obedience. Politics puts on theatre of choice, but the script never changes. The challenge is not just material, but psychological, breaking free of the conviction that there is no alternative. And perhaps the deepest theme is responsibility. Anarchism is not about hating the rich or blaming the powerful as if they are alone are the cause. They too are products of a system. The point is to change the system itself, to dismantle the structures that reward greed, violence and control. This requires us to take responsibility, not just to criticise but to create, not just to protest but to build. Lessons from the past, what history tells us. History is littered with attempts to build freer worlds. Some flourished for a while, some were crushed, some collapsed under their own contradictions. The Spanish collectives, the Paris communes, the Makhnovists in Ukraine, the Zapatistas, Rojava, all show us that anarchist principles can work at scale. They also show us how fragile these experiments can be in the face of external repression and internal strains. Other lessons come from countercultures. The New Age travellers, free parties, squats, communes, these may not have overthrown capitalism, but they demonstrated alternative values and inspired generations. Even when targeted by laws like the Criminal Justice and Public Order Act, they persisted, adapted and resurfaced. And we've also looked at mainstream experiments that, whilst not anarchist, point in similar directions. Transition towns, co-ops, solidarity economies, mutual aid networks all show that resilience and autonomy are not only possible but already here. History also warns us. As Chapter 4 showed, the state is not passive. It actively suppresses alternatives, scapegoats migrants, criminalises gatherings, surveils dissent. As Chapter 5 explored, capitalism constantly reinvents itself, turning crises into opportunities for profit, co-opting even movements for sustainability and green capitalism. As Chapter 6 discussed, religion adapts too, wrapping nationalism and populism in sacred rhetoric. And as Chapter 7 demonstrated, party politics remains a trap that absorbs energy without delivering transformation. The lesson is sobering. Building alternatives is never enough on its own. They must be defended, linked and federated if they are to survive. Everyday anarchism, seeds beneath the snow. One of the strongest arguments of this book is that anarchism is not a dream of the future but a practice of the present. Chapter 9 showed how everyday acts, gardening, repair, recycling, co-ops, mutual aid, DIY culture, already embody anarchist values. These may look small, but they are cracks in the concrete. And as anyone who has seen weeds burst through tarmac knows, cracks have power. The everyday matters because it undermines the idea that anarchism is impossible. A housing co-op that actually houses people, a repair cafe that actually fixes things, a mutual aid group that actually feeds the hungry. These are facts on the ground. They make the abstract concrete, the theoretical practical. They also show that anarchism is not about sacrifice or grim duty, but about joy, music, festivals, creativity, community. This everyday practice also guards against despair. When we imagine anarchism only as a total global transformation, it feels overwhelming. When we see it in the garden, the squat, the kitchen, the workshop, it feels tangible. It becomes something we can do today, not only dream about tomorrow. Big visions, resource councils, federation, and the roadmap. Yet everyday practice is not enough. If anarchism is to move beyond glimpses and cracks, and here go the cats again. Shut up! Wait! Below the cracks, it must also think at scale. Chapters 8 and 10 outlined what this might look like. resource councils managing abundance, federations linking communities, systematic roadmaps from local to national to global. Section 67 described how resource-based councils could allocate according to need rather than market. Section 80 showed how federations from the CNT to Rojava provides resilience and coordination without decentralisation. Section 84 sketched how transitions could unfold from basic needs as commons to co-op conversion to energy and food sovereignty, to tapering money to federations. These visions matter because they respond to the practical questions skeptics always ask about how would it work? How would we make decisions? What would defence, healthcare, energy, logistics? Anarchism and the challenge of the bullshit jobs. Critics often ask who would do the unwanted tasks in a society without bosses. Anarchist experiments suggest that dirty, dull or dangerous work is not solved by compulsion but by cooperation. Communities can share such jobs fairly, rotate them or redesign life so they are reduced. Some tasks can be automated or reorganised. Others can be dignified through collective responsibility rather than forced labour. The deeper point is that capitalism already forces millions into degrading work for survival, with no say and little reward. Anarchism insists that if all work is shared and shaped by those who do it, even the least glamorous jobs can be lighter when approached together rather than imposed from above. The answers are not perfect, but they are grounded in real experiments and real history. They show that another world is not only necessary, but possible. Anarchist experiments suggest that jobs can be reduced through technology, shared fairly through rotation, or transformed by recognising that social value rather than treating them as punishment. At the global level, the roadmap extended into commons treaties, demilitarisation compacts, planetary confederations. These are ambitious, yes, but no more ambitious than believing that capitalism can go on forever on a finite planet. Obstacles and doubts, the pub test. We're coming to the end soon. Still, we cannot ignore the obstacles. As Section 82 argued, anarchism faces resilience challenges, repression, scarcity, exhaustion. People often dismiss anarchism as unrealistic, too difficult, requiring collapse. And as Section 96 explored, psychological barriers are perhaps the hardest, the pub test, where over a pint someone says, "Nice idea, mate, but people are just greedy bastards." These doubts matter because they are widespread, and yet, as we've seen, they often rest on myths rather than facts. People are not naturally selfish, they are shaped by systems. Crime is not an eternal fact of human life, it's fuelled by poverty, inequality, trauma and propaganda. Violence is not inevitable, it's encouraged and rewarded by states and corporations. Scarcity is not absolute, it is produced by hoarding and waste. And even if some people are greedy, violent or destructive, anarchist systems can handle that. Restorative and transformative justice provide ways of responding to harm without prisons. Federated assemblies provide ways of balancing autonomy with accountability. Commons governance provide ways of preventing overuse without private property. As for the idea that anarchism requires collapse, well, collapse may come whether we like it or not. Climate crisis, ecological breakdown, economic crashes. These are not anarchist fantasies but capitalist realities. The question is whether we wait for collapse or build alternatives now, so that if collapse comes, seeds are already sprouting. Culture and joy, the heart of it all. One of the most important threads in Chapter 10 was culture. Festivals, music, art, rewilding, permaculture, joy. These are not distractions but infrastructure. They sustain us, inspire us, bind us together. They show that anarchism is not just about bread but also about roses, not just about survival but about flourishing. Anarchism is not grim. It's not about hair, shirts and sacrifice. It's about living fully, creativity, laughter, community, freedom. It's why festivals and parties matter, why rave culture and squats matter, why art and DIY repair matter. They embody the principle that freedom is joyous, not dour. And yes, some people argue that in the future we'll all live in virtual reality. To that anarchism answers, bollocks. Life is not pixels on a headset. Life is dancing, growing food, repairing bikes, playing music, making love, raising children, sharing meals. Anarchism is about embodiment, not escape. And as one old anarchist put it, if I can't dance, I don't want to be part of your revolution. What we can do now. Temptation at the end of the book like this is to sigh and say, lovely ideas, but what can I actually do? The answer is quite a lot. Section 94 gave a list of practical steps: reusing, recycling, minimising waste, producing your own power, gardening, communal cooking, spreading the word intelligently. Each small act chips away at the myth that we are powerless. Perhaps the most radical thing you can do is to speak differently. Instead of raging at the rich or the racists, explain gently that these too are products of a system. Instead of mocking doubters, engage them with patience. Anarchism spreads not through shouting but through example, not through hate but through solidarity. And of course, you can join or start collective projects, co-ops, repair groups, food networks, housing collectives, squats, campaigns. You can live the future in the present, however small the scale. Closing reflections, from critique to vision. So where does this leave us? As anarchism, as this book has argued, is not about waiting for the perfect revolution, nor about storming the Winter Palace, nor about imposing blueprints. It's about dismantling myths, building alternatives, linking federations, spreading seeds. It's about living as if we were already free, not perfectly, not without struggle, but persistently, creatively and joyfully. We cannot predict the future, but we can shape it. We can refuse to let states and corporations dictate the terms of our existence. We can refuse the narrative that there is no alternative. We can remember, with Chomsky, that anarchism is democracy taken seriously. The task now is to live it. In our homes, our communities, our cultures, our federations. To plant seeds beneath the snow. To nurture cracks in the concrete. To build joy as infrastructure. And maybe, just maybe, to sneak in the odd bass line or two. Thanks for listening, guys.